have a team of 5 people. We have 74 active partners paying as of today, collectively about 1.6 million a year. I don't have a huge YouTube channel. I don't have a huge social media presence. You might have had difficulty even finding us. I kind of like being a bit of a secret club. The offer said this, the ad said this, so you have to say the same thing when you call them. Otherwise, if you say something different, that little chain now has broken.
Hey guys, and welcome back to today's podcast. Today we have a very special guest. So without further ado, Mr. John Reh. John, how's it going?
Hello. Great. It's awesome. Thanks for having me here today. Happy to share if I can.
Welcome. So John, tell us right now, like what's your current active client roster, your team size, get some monthly numbers that you're seeing?
Yeah, our general numbers right now are that I've been doing this for, well, technically as a formal business
Mhm.
since January 1st, 2020. So it was a rocky start with things that
Mhm.
happened in March of 2020, but nevertheless, um, we've now gone from just me kind of doing it in my bedroom basically to now we have a team of 5 people,
Mhm.
and we have 74 active partners paying as of today,
Mhm.
um, and collectively about 1.6 million a year
Mhm.
through those 74 people. And so, um, yeah, it's taken a while to kind of get the operations down to figure
Mhm.
out, okay, well, how do I go from it's just me to working a million hours a week to how do I have other people help out so that I'm not working a million hours a week and that I can work a more normal life. So that's the hardest part, trying to branch out and create operations that sustain your business.
That's true. And John, for those watching, like what is like your niche and what's your offer that you saw?
We work ideally with, not ideally, we work only with residential real estate agents,
Mhm.
US and Canada primarily. And it's using YouTube ads to bring in leads,
Mhm.
as well as a proprietary system, CRM system and process that not only qualifies and sorts and organizes those leads, but also
Mhm.
proprietary process to connect with and follow up with the leads. So it's literally a one-stop shop, full turnkey solution. Literally, an agent says, "Hey, I want to join." Within 3 days, we've got a system built, custom ads for them, and
Wow.
they basically wait for leads to come in. Technically, you could wait until the leads start talking to you through our system. It's going to bring those people right to the top.
Yeah.
So it's a I don't know of anything quite like it, primarily because when I was a full-time agent myself, which is where this all comes from, me not just being like a marketer slinging leads, but me as a real estate agent directly, I still have an active license to this day,
Mhm.
like me just trying to solve my own problem. And it really just started with me doing this for myself and iterating 10,000 times and getting out all the junk. And then they got to the point where agents that I worked with were like, "Hey, that looks a lot better than what I'm doing. Can you show me how to do it?" And
Yeah.
then I would show them how to do it. And then eventually they all said, "This is great, but it takes way too much time and it's way too hard. Would you just do it for me?" And
Mhm.
initially I was like, "No, no." And then it dawned on me like, "Hey, dummy, like somebody's offering to pay you money. Maybe you should take them up on that." So then I started doing it. And then I did that for like a year and a half, just kind of on the side.
Mhm.
And then January 1st, 2020, that was my New Year's resolution to just turn it into a business and kind of burn the bridge of being an agent. And not burn the bridge because like I still have an active license, but the point being is that I wanted to focus on having the agency exclusively. So that's where we're at now.
John, first off, I actually want to commend you because what under 4 years went from like a solo, like in your bedroom, like just startup company to almost $2 million agency in a very saturated, competitive niche of agents, real estate agents. It's a heavy niche to be in. So it's a big one for
Thanks.
you.
It's hard. It is very hard. It's very saturated, perhaps one of the most saturated
Yeah.
niches. And, there's gurus on every corner. And so, being an agent myself, when I was in those shoes on that side of the equation, yeah, I talk to people all the time and I'm like, how do I believe you? How do I know this to be true? Whatever. So I'm
Mhm.
very humbled and honored that people choose us to spend money. It's not inexpensive.
Mhm.
It's not crazy amounts either, but it's more than the average program.
Hmm.
But that's because it actually works. And leads that come from YouTube are not inexpensive themselves. So I mean, like, it's just kind of a funnel that, you know, you have to charge a certain amount to make it worthwhile for everybody involved. It's also a very formulaic equation. Like we know, like if we spend X amount, we'll get X amount of leads and you'll get X amount of
Hmm.
transactions from it. So you just have to commit to it.
That's it. So John, speaking of funnels and like right coming to you and choosing you, like I know like your kind of like a marketing strategy is a bit different from what most people do, like cold email or cold DM or referrals. So how do you get clients?
Well, we walk the walk and talk the talk. And that's one of the things that I talk about when I do presentations on Zoom to potential people considering us.
Yeah.
And it's, in fact, one of the very first things I say is I say, what we do for what we do for you to get buyers and sellers in front of you is the exact same thing that I did to get in front of you that caused you to want to learn more from me. Like, so you can say anything that you want about why you're not going to join us, but
Hmm.
to say it doesn't work, quote unquote, is not one. Because if it didn't work, you wouldn't have gotten to me in the first place. Because I did the exact same thing to get you to me that we're going to do to
Logic.
get buyers and sellers to you. Like it's, I mean, you can't walk yourself out of that corner. Like you can deny reality
Hmm.
and say, hey, well, I don't think it's going to work for me, but you know, that's denying reality. So we run ads. We run ads. That's all we do. Like I don't have a huge YouTube channel. I don't have a huge social media presence. Like
Hmm.
I'm just not that personality.
Hmm.
Nothing wrong with that. Plenty of people that do very well with that, but I'm just not that personality. I don't care about any of that.
Hmm.
And that's actually another point that I make on our sales presentations. I'm like, you might have had difficulty even finding us. Like we don't have a ton of Google reviews. We don't have a ton of stuff that's out there. And that's partly by design. Like I kind of like being a bit of a secret club. And only like the cool kids know what's not the cool kids, that's the wrong analogy, but like, you know, like if you know, you know. And so that's kind of a fun position to be in.
So again, like, I have like some some background for with like your ads and like your funnels. So like I know this, but for those watching, like what's like your typical like lead to booked call ratio that you guys see for your offer?
Like in our offer, like our funnel to get leads for our agency
Yeah.
is for every, it's basically 20%. So for every five leads, we should usually get one book call, roughly.
So 5 leads to 1 booked call, correct?
Usually about, yeah. I think just having something unique is helpful. So
Hmm.
obviously having something that's different one than what everybody else has on the market,
Hmm.
being able to demonstrate why that's important,
Hmm.
and also to uh to show it. So almost all our most successful ads are videos of some sort, even longer videos, longer meaning from a 6 minute ad, whether it's Facebook or YouTube,
Hmm.
to like a 32-minute VSL in the funnel that plenty of people watch all the way through.
Hmm.
So I think being able to show it, to demonstrate it, give insight into that it's different and there's a benefit to being it, to having it be different.
Hmm.
That certainly goes most of the way to getting people to at least be interested.
So something new, big benefit, and show it.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Simple enough. Now, John, I always ask this question because I love asking this question. And it's to the younger John, let's say 5 years back. Like what would be like your advice to him as a young marketer, young guy in the space, either running ads, working with clients, to get to where you're at faster?
You just got to try a bunch of stuff, figure out what works really. I mean, both in our agency ads, like to
Yeah.
get clients for us, as well as the ads that we run for our own partners to get leads for them,
Mm-hmm.
the offers are very specific. Like I could take the script from whether it's our agency ads or our ads that we use for our partners. I could take that same script and just move the words around, put the words
Yeah.
in the same words, different order, completely different results. You know, so like that alone is super crazy important. And then you think about, well, okay, well, what are the right words? And so then you got to figure out that. And then, okay, well, what's the right order? And so like there's such an iteration process to figure out. And I think the easiest place to start is to have a headline. Start with a headline and a pain point solution. Even something as simple as like your classical, here's how to get benefit without pain, even if you're filling the excuse,
Right.
right? Like just start with that and see what is resonating with people. What do people click on? And then add from that. When people hop on presentations, my format is that I go through those first two parts. So I talk a little bit about me,
Hmm.
why that's important for them to know that I was in their shoes. Then I show them, hey, here's why YouTube is unconditionally better, especially for real estate. And then the third part then is a demonstration, not just of a fake demo account with fake leads, but I pull up random accounts from existing partners with, leads that have literally come in the last 24 hours. And I show them exactly what's happening for other people. And I literally say, if this looks good to you, you should join. And if it doesn't look good to you, then you shouldn't, you know? And I think it's powerful to show real life results because that's what everybody wants, right? Like, well,
Yeah.
how do I know this is true? Well, I'm literally showing you what just happened in the 24 hours for this guy and not just one example. I'll pull up his account and there's hundreds and hundreds of leads. I'm like, pick one, whatever one you want to see, pick one. We'll go through five and they're all basically the same. And so that helps with credibility because they can see that it's not staged. I didn't like, you know,
It's live.
yeah, it's live, and sometimes like there's a lead that's like not good. Of course, not everything is going to be 100% perfect. And I'll be like, listen, that guy said stop in the text messages or something like
Yeah.
that, or something that's not positive. I'm like, that's going to happen once in a while. Here's X percentage of time you're going to get this, X percentage of time you're going to get that. We've done it 52,000 times literally. And so we know the data. And so from that perspective, knowing the data and showing a live demonstration and showing the good with the bad, which I think is important. It's not all
Hmm.
good. Can't possibly be all good. That'd be a miracle. That'd be magic. That doesn't exist.
Hmm.
But to show the good and the bad, um, I think is credibility. And speaking of the good and the bad, I think part of my story too is to show some vulnerability. So I talk about things that might be embarrassing to some
Such
people in the
as.
real estate space. So like, yeah, like I share a story that when I was an agent, um, like I had a really hard time. Like not just a really hard time, but my real estate business caused me to, in large respect, to get divorced. I literally moved back in my parents' basement at the age of 41.
Hmm.
Um, and that was the low point in my life, I'll tell you that. Right? And so I just share the story with agents. I'm like, listen, this isn't all unicorns and rainbows. Like I, I've had it good, I had it bad. I get it. It's hard. This business can like punch you in the face. And I had to get my way out of my parents' basement again, like in my 40s. Like I had to find a way out. And it turns out that the way out was good enough that it caught other people's attention. And that
Hmm.
method that got me out is basically what our service is now. And so I think a lot of people identify with maybe not moving into their parents' basement, but they can identify with difficulties and stuff like that. And so that, sharing that vulnerability, I think for some people anyway, goes a long way to be like, hey, maybe this guy isn't a shark, or maybe this guy isn't just some like
Some
fancy
schmuck.
guru. Yeah, like peddling the latest and greatest, and that's just the way that it is. Life is hard sometimes. And, you know, I've had coaches, well, one in particular that described very vulnerable of his situations
Hmm.
um, many years ago when I was first getting into the business. I'm like, that's really interesting. I've never really heard somebody tell a quote unquote embarrassing story about their life like that. And it really stuck with me. And that's partially why I do it now, is because for many people, they'll be like, oh, I'll, this guy seems legit, or I identify with that, or whatever it is.
Hmm.
I think it just makes you more real. And because it is real.
It is. Yeah. It's honesty.
Yeah, it's honesty, which I think hopefully for most people is refreshing, which again is
So
why I show the good with the bad in the accounts. Like it's all I just think about like what would I want to see somebody
yeah,
talk about and then just do that. And for the most part it works.
John, so many golden nuggets from what you just said. And you know, it's funny, John, like you, oh, right, you know this, that I love copywriting. And from what you just told me, like I can pick out and like pinpoint all the parts of your copy. I'm like, yeah, I love that. That makes sense. I love that. Right? I'm gonna steal that. And the part on being vulnerable, the term damaging admission comes to mind.
Damaging admission. Well, I've never heard it phrased like that, but I like that.
So it's like where you
Yeah.
like you reveal parts of you like that are kind of again vulnerable, and you seem more human, right? Trustworthy at that point. Now, John, CNS, right? You have like a winning your strategy to like to sign clients, right, and close clients. When you bring them on, like how do you ensure that they stay on and you know get results and don't leave?
Well, first you have to provide a product and a service that's as good as you can do.
Right.
And I truly believe that we have the best product and service in the world of real estate. Otherwise, I couldn't sleep at night if I thought that I was selling you something that was substandard.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing is that it's very difficult. And that's something that I also mention in my presentations to people, my discussions with people. I say it's not easy. In fact, it's really hard. And some people quit. And here's why they quit. And then I literally go through the two main reasons, which in lead generation, of course, the first reason is that you just don't call the leads. But in our case, with our service, we
Mm-hmm.
have a follow-up, a very specific follow-up process that is coherent and not coherent, is congruent, with the ad, with the
Mm-hmm.
offer. So we're basically say, hey, the offer said this, the ad said this. So you have to say the same thing when you call them. Otherwise, if you say something different, that little chain now has broken.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's part of the other reason why people have success with us is because it's just like Apple and Tesla that control their entire ecosystem, we control the entire ecosystem, literally from the first word a lead hears in the ad
Mm-hmm.
to what the agent now says when they follow up. It's all the same message using the same words. And that's crazy important. And so many of our clients don't get that. They don't understand it, why that's important. And so they say stuff that doesn't make sense. It's like speaking the wrong language to your lead, right?
Right.
Um, and so we really focus on that. And then along with those things, when people join us, we have lots of personal time, both in group formats as well as one-on-one formats, helping them uh, utilize our service and understand what's happening. So we usually have 2 or 3 or 4 of those in the first 30 days, so it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And we walk through the leads one by one. We say, hey, this is what they said. This is what you should say. This is what they did. This is what you should do. And so the whole goal is by the end of that first month that people understand how our system works and they know what to say. And we keep it simple too. So ultimately, to answer your question, you have to have a product and service that you think is great
Mm-hmm.
or the best, really, and then help them get results by just investing time with them. And that's a lot of where we've got team members on our team that do much of that work for me because I would just run out of time in the day. I mean, I'd be working 100 hours a week if I had to do all that plus everything else that I do. So the way that we figured out how to do it is that I do the group calls,
Mm-hmm.
so people still have access to me, which is not to say that like I'm the greatest or whatever, but like some people, they talk to me on the sales presentation. I'm the owner of the company and they know that. And so for many of those people, it feels good for them to have access to me. And I'm fine with that. That's great. I'm happy to do that. I just can't do it one-on-one all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I do all the group calls and then team members do the the, the one-on-ones that are more routine. And then in certain cases, I can also hop on one-on-ones too in certain situations. So with all those things, it all basically just comes down to, I think, just trying to do your best and helping people when they need help, even before they need help, before they realize they need help. Like we can see, hey, you're going down the wrong path. Here's why it's not going to work. Let us save you 30 days of frustration. Change course now, you know?
Of course, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's difficult. It's very difficult. It's difficult for us. It's difficult for our some of our partners, not all. I mean, the partners that get it, they crush it because they're like, oh, this is why we're doing it. This is why it
Mhm.
works. And then they just do it. And for those people that get it, it's just like, it's kind of like being in a routine at the gym. Like it's a little bit hard to get going sometimes, but then once
Mhm.
you get into that routine and you like working out and then you start seeing the results and then that fuels you wanting to keep going to the gym and stuff like that. And I think that's a lot of what this is just go through the hard stuff of understanding it. And then once you're rolling, that in itself kind of fuels your momentum.
That's it. And John, I love the point that you made that hey, we are the best. Like that mindset might kind of like slip past most people's like eyeballs or ears, like oh yeah, whatever. But it's like that thinking is like what leads to right better results for clients.
And you have to believe that, like not from an
Yeah,
arrogant standpoint, I don't think, or like look at me standpoint, but you have to believe you are the best. Otherwise, why are you doing it? You know,
good point. John, from your point of view, like what's been one of like your best strategies for innovation for a client results that you've developed?
every morning part of my routine is I'll go to the gym and for like an hour usually be on an elliptical. And I choose elliptical machine specifically, besides like the health benefit, I choose it because I can keep my head level as opposed to like running on a treadmill where it's like bouncing.
Yeah.
And I have my phone on like a little boom arm thing that I attach to the elliptical, and so I can
Mhm.
like watch YouTube videos. And so I just watch stuff. So
what kind of stuff are you watching, John? Let us know. What kind of stuff?
yeah, just like all types of marketing. So, from Hormozy, everybody watches that stuff to stuff that's more specific to real estate, the
Mm-hmm.
stuff that's specific to YouTube or just like Google in general, just like watching stuff. And 95% of the time, you're just kind of like watching things and you're like, okay, well, that was informative or that was helpful, whatever. But then there's 5% of the time where you're like, oh, that's exactly what I need right now. And then, so
Mm.
I've got even like a shortcut on my phone where I press just one button and
Yeah.
it automatically pulls up an email with like a specific headline and it's addressed to me. And all I have to do is type a thought. So like as I'm watching the video, I'll pause the video, like move the video out, like press one button on the shortcut on my phone. It like
Uh-huh.
automatically formats an email and I type in like as I'm on the elliptical, I'm like, okay, like look into, whatever my thought is or whatever I just saw on the YouTube. I'm like, do more research on this. So like most mornings I'll come when I finally get to the office, there's like anywhere from 3 to 15 of those messages from the hour of just like scanning other videos. And then I'll like look into each of those things and 99% of those ideas go by the wayside. I'm like, that was stupid. Why did I think that? That was just 45 minutes ago that I thought that that might work. That will never work. But
Mm-hmm.
that's fine. Like you get rid of ideas very quickly. And then okay, like there might be one or two or three ideas a week that kind of like pass all the gates.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, okay, like I know myself and I know that if an idea has stuck around for about 2 weeks with me, then I know that it's probably a good enough idea to keep looking into. But if I forget about it within 2 weeks, then I know that wasn't good enough. So the whole point of that is to say, like always be on the lookout. And even
Mm-hmm.
though most of the stuff you're watching out for is ultimately going to waste your time,
Mm-hmm.
there's a nugget somewhere, and you just have to be paying attention and and spot it and to spot it at the right time. There's certainly things that I come across that I implement now and are using now that I heard previously, but either didn't understand it or didn't think that it was usable or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then like you go through another scenario and then there's more difficulty, there's another opportunity or another situation. You're like, oh, like now I'm in a new position. What about that thing that I discounted 3 months ago? But could that now work? And then like, okay, well now that's going to work based on my new scenario. So there's no roadmap and you just got to keep trying and thinking.
Always test.
That was like a really long-winded answer, but hopefully that was helpful.
So, John, I agree with that because one of the things I noticed with like very smart people that do well in life is they're always like all their free time goes towards learning, right? So they're at the gym, they're learning. They're walking, they're learning. So like your gym kind of like learning, funny, right? Learning automation. I'm like, yeah, that's you, that's me. Like that's again a lot of our friends. And speaking, John, speaking of learning, like what's been some of the best books that you've read that for either marketing or sales or like business that helped you?
Great. Yeah, I don't know if you can see, but those over there, those are all real books and stuff. Those are my
Fake
my
book,
favorite books.
not
And
virtual backgrounds.
yeah, that's all real background. Um, so the first thing, I mean, easily like .com secrets.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read that 10,000 times. Story Brand, really great book. Um, $100 million offers from Mosey, of course. Those are a couple that come to mind. E-Myth Revisited, which isn't marketing, but more like operations.
Yeah.
Um, those would be the main ones that come to mind right away.
Of course, John, we know that like, of course, like learning and like reading and getting knowledge makes people smarter to increase their odds of success. Though, from your experience, like what makes the average marketer slash agency owner successful, or not successful from your experience?
Let's see here. I think the difficulties that would make somebody less successful
Mm-hmm.
would be not innovating, not helping their clients or partners enough, and not accounting for uh, normal churn. If you're in agency life, just part of it is that not everybody's going to stick around forever. It's just the way that it is.
So, John, I believe you mentioned that your onboarding like is like what 3 days, like it's real fast. Is there like an offboarding for clients when they're leaving?
Yeah. Yeah. So we've got I don't know if you want to call it satisfaction surveys, but
Mm-hmm.
um, we ask people every month, everybody, not
Okay.
just on the offboarding, but every month, everybody gets a check-in from us. It's an automated thing. It's like, hey, how are we doing? And it's literally like a stoplight system where it's like red, green, yellow. Just give
Mm-hmm.
us a color, literally. And then, um, depending on what color they say, that gives us insight into what we might want to say next. And
Mm-hmm.
most people don't fill those out or don't respond, but that's okay. If you're really happy or really sad, you probably will respond. That's what we're looking for either way for the most part. And so if somebody does have to leave for any reason, then we want to continue to help them as much as we can. So we give them stats about, hey, 80% of these leads that you have are going to do something the next 12 months,
Mm-hmm.
which means that there's literally X amount of dollars worth of commissions in these leads. So we'd recommend that you follow up. So we make sure that they have all that contact information. We want them to have the leads, to utilize them, to get something out of our program.
Mm-hmm.
And then internally, we also have operational processes to make sure that they're not going to continue to get certain types of communication from us, like, for example, like weekly training sessions that we have. So we've got all that automated in our CRM system so that they get the appropriate communication on the date that technically their plan stops.
Hmm. So, John, it sounds like they're getting like so much value once they do leave. So I'm wondering, like, how many of the clients that just leave for whatever reason refer others to you because, again, of the great value they got from working with you guys?
Yeah, we get a ton of referrals, which I take that, of course, as a very good compliment, especially in our niche. That's so difficult, and so looked at as, you know, sometimes not unethical, but kind of sleazy for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we get a ton of referrals, so that's very important to us, and I think speaks well for what we do. And so we also have a referral system, so we contribute a certain amount of money off of that referring partner's next invoice. So let's say that you refer me a new person that joins, then I
Yeah.
give you a certain amount of money off your next invoice as a thank you.
Oh.
Yeah, and we've got people that have paid for many months worth of free service by just referring people. So
Again, John, it's
yeah.
why I said you are very ingenious with your strategies of like whether it's marketing, ads, pricing, onboard. Very smart, very wise.
Well, it's also what you learn from feedback too. Like we didn't
Yeah.
always do that. Like I used to say, hey, if you refer somebody, what we'll do is we'll kick in some more money to get you some more leads for next month.
Mhm.
But that was a little bit ambiguous because then people were like, well, how many more leads or how much more? And like, so it wasn't tangible.
Mhm.
So even though we were contributing basically the same amount worth of extra leads for free, that wasn't really resonating. And so we changed the program so that same amount that we would have spent extra on ad spend
Mhm.
now goes off their next invoice. So it's the same hit to us, so to speak, but it's much more tangible to them and it feels better. So, and that's just a trial and error thing. Like, oh, like we thought we were doing this awesome thing, but it turns out they didn't really value that. So we just changed what we did and how we did it, but it doesn't cost us any more or less.
Now, John, any final words for the viewers?
I would say that marketing is fun. It's
Hell yeah.
exciting. I personally love the blend of both art and science of it. You have
Mhm.
to have both, and you have to do both well. And the fact that it's always changing makes it hard and exciting at the same time. And the good news and the bad news at the same time is that there's no one clear, easy way.
Mhm.
But if you stick to it and you make your way through the weeds and you cut enough weeds and you get enough like thistles like buried in your forearms and your calves and your feet, and as you're kind of like getting through all this junk, like there's you start finding the fruit that you can start eating and stuff after you make it all the way through the jungle, and
Hungry.
it starts to become a lot more fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool. I think it's exciting. Like even to this day, like um, I still get notifications when we have even when new leads come in. Like, oh, you hear the ding on your phone. You're like, oh, I just got a new lead. Even my wife knows this the sound because I've got a certain text tone on my phone when leads come in,
Mhm.
as opposed to like me getting a text from my friend or whatever. And
Mhm.
so even my wife knows what that sound is. So it's actually the little choo choo train on the iPhone, that little text notification sound. So that'll go off, and my wife's like, "Oh, is that a new lead or a booked call?" I'm like, "Let me look, let me see." So I think just that is just fun. And so if that is fun and exciting, that just kind of helps make it a little bit of a game.
Now, John, where can the viewers find you?
Check us out at likableagent.com. So it's LikeAbleAgent.com.
Mhm.
Information about our service, what we do, a little bit about me, where they can book a call if they want to find out more. So that's the best resource.
There we go. Of course, guys, drop a comment with your biggest takeaway from today's podcast. And of course, feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's podcast. Talk soon. See you.